The Penguins will look to get back in the win column tonight against the Buffalo Sabres, and Pat and I are going to preview that game for you guys right after this.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Hunter Hodes. You can follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes, joined by my co-host, Patrick Damp. You can follow him on all social media platforms at Sin and For Wet. You can also follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins, and you can follow the show's Instagram at LockedOn_Penguins, of course. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen/watch of the day. We are free and available on all platforms. And finally, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Pat, we picked a great time to start recording this because Arsenal just took a 1-0 lead over Bayern Munich in the Champions League group stage game today. So good vibes for my fellow Arsenal fans out there. Pat, if you want to make the 1-0 joke, you can. It's literally the same thing. It's okay, but it's a big game today. Arsenal's trying to keep their undefeated record in group stage play in the Champions League going. So anyways, enough about my favorite soccer team. Let's get to the main event. Penguins Sabres comes your way tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern time from PBG Paints Arena. The Penguins will look to end their 2-game losing streak and start banking points. Pat and I have talked a lot about that this week, where it's put up or shut up time. You woke up today out of a playoff spot, and it's time to start banking these 2 points because, as we know, December is going to be hell with the condensed schedule, and there's a lot of really tough tests coming up. So it has to start tonight. They will play a Sabres team that I love making fun of. Pat loves making fun of. The entire hockey world likes making fun of. Though, to their credit, they have been solid as of late. They've won 2 straight, one of which was a 9-3 dismantling of the Chicago Blackhawks, who have not been bad this year. Connor Bedard is potentially playing his way onto Team Canada, but Buffalo killed Chicago in that game. And the Sabres have also won 4 of their last 5 games. Overall, they have a 9-13 record, though 4 of those games are overtime losses. So by NHL standards, it's 9-9-4, but 9-13 is what they actually are. 7th in the Atlantic. You know how their high-end talent goes. Tage Thompson, he's been outstanding once again, leads the team in goals with 12, 21 points in 22 games. He's a Penguins killer. He's playing his way onto Team USA. If he doesn't make Team USA at the Olympics, Pat, I think there is something wrong with the decision-making process because he deserves to be there. Alex Tuch has also been awesome. 8 goals, 21 points in 22 games. He's been one of, if not their top playmaker so far this season. Dahlin in 19 games has 16 points in those 19 games. You know what you're going to get from Dahlin in the lineup. He's on the top pair. Bowen Byram is on the second pair. Former Penguin Connor Timmins is on the third pair. Then you also have other players like former Penguin Jason Zucker, Zach Benson, who I still to this day think that the Penguins would have drafted him if he fell one more spot to them a couple of years ago in the 2023 NHL draft. You have Jack Quinn, Ryan McLeod, Peyton Krebs, etc. And then in goal, it looks like, Pat, one of the best names in hockey. It looks like he's going to start Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. It appears that he is going to get the start for the Sabres tonight. He's been fine this year. He's only made 6 starts, 3-2-1 in those, .897 save percentage, 2.68 goals against average. So again, he's been fine. For the Penguins, though, it will be Tristan Jarry that starts tonight, which, hey, we thought yesterday was going to be Artur Shilovs. We'll take the L on that. It's going to be Jarry tonight. We'll get to a couple other injury updates a bit later on in the show. But, Pat, it really is that simple for me. You have to do whatever it takes to bank these 2 points. And with the way your head coach called you out, I got to see a 60-minute effort tonight because he was not thrilled after what happened on Saturday. They've now had a few days to really decompress, think about what Muse said. It's time to go out there. It's put up or shut up time.
They were put in the corner to think about what they've done, is essentially what you're saying on that one. But back to the Sabres, let's not discount what they have done in the month of November so far, because you talked about that they are in the midst of winning 4 of their last 5. And a lot of these wins didn't come against slouches. Detroit has been surprising this year. They get a 5-4 overtime win against them. They beat the Oilers 5-1. And I know the Oilers are struggling, but they still have the super weapons in Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. So being able to do that, pretty impressive. You said the 9-3 dismantling of Chicago, a surprise of this season so far, a team that's been pretty solid. 4-1 win over the Carolina Hurricanes earlier in the month. They're able to sneak out a shootout win over the Capitals. They're able to take the Utah Mammoth, who were still on the end of that hot start, in a 2-1 loss, but sticking with that team at that time was not an easy task. So this is a team that I'm still not convinced is going to be one of the better teams once we get to the end of the season. But right now, they're playing some solid hockey. And you look at their lineup right now, you look at their stats through the first 20 plus games, they've got 9 players with 10 points or more. So they are getting production from a large portion of their lineup. And again, we joke about how Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is the most fun name in hockey to say, but you look at their team right now, and really, if their goaltending starts to stabilize and starts to get closer to league average, because right now you've got UPL with an 897, Alex Lyon with a 907 himself. If one or both of those guys can get to and stay above 900, this is a Buffalo team that I think could, at the very least, be competitive for the majority of the season. They're just kind of early in the year, they fell a victim a little bit to subpar goaltending. And we've talked about it on this show plenty over the past couple of seasons. Really doesn't matter what you want to do with your team. If you can't get a save, it kind of derails the entire operation. So if those two can stabilize and get to league average, I can see a competitive Buffalo team this year. As for tonight, this is a team that's going the opposite direction of the Penguins right now. Penguins are on a slide. Sabres are on the up and up right now. You have to find a way to blunt that momentum. You couple that with Muse's comments. This has to be an all-out 60-minute effort. And just because it's the Buffalo Sabres, I know we have all made our jokes about the Sabres. They're playing well right now. Forget about the name, forget about the crest, and just play the game in front of you.
Right. So a few things there. It's funny, the first month of the season, the Sabres lost 12 of their first 17 games. So over the last couple of weeks, it has been much better. I still need to see more of it on a consistent basis for the Sabres, but they're at least starting to stabilize a little bit. They're not fully out of the playoff race in the Eastern Conference, but honestly, Pat, I don't think really anyone is fully out of it in the East right now. The standings continue to be really cluttered overall. I felt like a couple of weeks ago, the Sabres were trending really downward, where it looked like they were going to be out of it well before Thanksgiving. And then this next couple of weeks happened where, again, they've won 2 in a row, 4 of their last 5. They're getting more contributions from other players on the lineup. Tage and Alex Tuck have continued to be good. Rasmus Dahlin. They have played 3 goalies this year. Alex Lyon has actually played the most with 12 games. Pekka Luukkonen has 6. And then Colton Ellis has 5 games played under his belt. So it's been interesting with their goaltending situation throughout the year. As a team, they have a .902 save percentage, which is actually not terrible. So sometimes it's been very meh this year, but as a whole, when you combine the 3 goalies, .902, I think they'll take that. So I think for me, for the Penguins, I got to see the power play get back to where it was before the past few games. Just felt like, I know even against Seattle, they got the power play goal, but it still felt like the movement and everything else wasn't there as much for the last 2-3 games. Again, I know they got the power play goal.
Which that is going to be a big test tonight because you're taking on the league's best penalty kill in Buffalo. They sit first at 87.7%. That is, you don't get to 87.7 on a fluke. That is a very good penalty kill. So to build off of what you were saying, they have to get back to what brought them early success on the man advantage. It has to be constant puck movement, constant body movement, taking the shooting lanes when you have them. And if nothing else, if all else fails, you've got the players on this team, even with, which we'll talk about in the second segment, Ben Kindel getting some rest tonight, if nothing else fails, you've got the kind of players on your power play units that throw it to the front of the net, look for tips, look for rebounds, look for a little chaos in front, because even though the last couple weeks the Sabres goaltending has stabilized a bit, you still want to plant that seed in this team's head that the goaltending still might be shaky. So if you can pop an early one, or you can get a greasy goal on the power play, that can really help your case throughout the course of the game.
An unstoppable force meets a immovable object in this one. Penguins have the top-ranked power play. Sabres have the top-ranked penalty kill. I'm excited for that one. Penguins PK pad, as we know, is one of the top units in the league this year. So I'm curious to see how that continues. And then for Tristan Jarry, I want to see where he picks up off of. That last game that he played, that third period, he was brutal. Yes, he did get hurt, felt like during that game, but he still wasn't good in that third period. How is Jarry going to bounce back now that he's coming back from injury? Are we going to see the Jarry that we saw before that third period, or are we going to see some inconsistencies because he is starting again tonight? So that's also something I'm really, really curious about. But I think that's going to do it for this first segment. Coming up in the second segment, Pat and I have a whole bunch of injury updates to get you guys up on, because someone is coming back from injury that's not Tristan Jarry tonight, and Pat and I are going to discuss that right after this. Let's be honest, most of us can't even name all of our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401ks, savings, and investments, it is easy to lose track, and that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. It has helped me organize my accounts, track my spending, and get a better handle on my investments without having to touch a spreadsheet. I love that I can review everything with my partner, see our shared goals, and make better financial decisions together. Monarch's visual dashboards and smart tools make it so much easier to understand where my money's going and how to make it work harder for me. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. All right, we're back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am one of your hosts, Hunter Hodes, joined by my co-hosts, Patrick Damp and Pat. We have a whole bunch of other lineup news to get to because Dan Muse talked a lot after the morning skate today. So we already discussed Tristan Jarry. He is coming off of injured reserve. He is starting tonight. Archer Shilovs will be the backup, and then both of those guys will split. They haven't officially announced it yet. I haven't gotten the notification, but I imagine Sergei Murashov is on his way back to Wilkes-Barre, so that's going to be announced either during this recording or probably right after it ends, because that's always how our luck goes with these things. Brian Rust is returning tonight. He has missed the last couple of days with an illness. He was at the morning skate. He confirmed after the skate that he will be in, going back to the top line. But Pat, Ben Kindel will be a healthy scratch in this one. Dame Muse said it is for developmental reasons. I know some people are not happy about that. I get it to a degree, but I also understand where the Penguins are coming from with this. He has played a lot of hockey as of late. I know some people may push back and be like, well, Hunter, he's only played a few times in the last couple of weeks of the Global Series. Yes, I hear you on that. But I think they're taking the long game with this. They're giving him a night off because December, as we know, is going to be nuts. They want him playing, in my opinion, a lot of those high-stakes games where you're going up against some of the top teams in the league. You can give him a night off now, even though I know you need the 2 points, but you can give him a night off now, and then you have the weekend back-to-back, and then you have a lot more games coming up in December. They have a set plan. They are sticking to it, so I'm fine, just because I'm imagining he's going to be back in the lineup this weekend. Also, Ville Koivunen is going to be back in the lineup tonight. He is coming off of injured reserve. He was on the third line during practice this week, so that's really good news. He had been playing well before getting hurt. During that first Global Series game against the Predators, he's come so close numerous times, Pat, to scoring his first NHL goal. Maybe it happens tonight, maybe not, but I was liking his game before he got hurt. So those are all of the individual players news before tonight. Pat, your thoughts?
Right now, this is probably the best opportunity to continue with the development and load management plan for Ben Kindel, because you look at where the schedule is right now. It's kind of the best way to get him a little bit more rest before really throwing him into the fire. You brought up that this weekend they're going to have another back-to-back. They're going to be in Columbus on Friday, and then Toronto comes to town on Saturday. So you're going to want to have him in both of those games. And then you move to December, and there's only 2 back-to-backs, and one of them is a back-to-back at home when they'll play San Jose and then Utah. And then they have the home at home against the Montreal Canadiens. But you look at December and they pretty much play every other day for the first 3 weeks of the month. So right now is the best time to get him a little bit of extended rest, and you'll be able to keep him fresher for this big nightmare of a December schedule that's coming. And I know that in the first segment, we talked about, hey, you got to take this Buffalo team a little bit more seriously. They're playing well lately. But when you look at the quality of opponents coming up over the next couple of weeks, this probably was, again, the best game to let him take a seat, put Koivunen back in, let Tristan Brose make his NHL debut. You're also going to get Brian Rust back tonight. Even though he didn't miss any games, he did miss a couple of practices with illness. So I'm totally okay with this. Again, we know what the expectation from the outside of this team is. From the inside, we know they're competitors. We know they want to make the playoffs. We know they want to be good. But on the outside, we're worried about what Ben Kindel is going to be able to do with this franchise in 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years from now. You don't want to burn him out as an 18-year-old rookie. You don't want to stunt his development. So it sucks for us as fans and consumers that we don't get to watch him tonight. But for the long run, this will help him.
Right, I agree. And considering, again, just how crazy December is, you want him playing against some of these top teams. So I'm not trying to disrespect Buffalo. It makes sense to sit him out in this game. Again, they need the points, but you're still going to get to see some of the younger pieces tonight. Tristan Brose is making his NHL debut on the third line with Ville Koivunen, who is set to return, and Tommy Novak. I'm really excited for that line, especially Brose, because I've loved what he has done in the AHL this year, even going back to last year, and I'm excited to see what he can do at the NHL level. I've already discussed how I'm excited to see Koivunen come back because I felt like he was starting to get some momentum going before he got hurt. Novak, I've already said, I want him to get going again, Felt like earlier in the year he was playing a bit better, but his play had been sliding. But maybe that changes now that Koivunen is coming back and now that he's playing like Tristan Brose. I am sure Kindel is going to be on the third line once he gets back in the lineup, probably this weekend. They're going to have to figure out a few things. Maybe you still have, Kindel with Novak and Brose potentially still. Maybe if you want to go Kindel with Koivunen and Brose, you could do that as well and kick Novak to a different line. They have a whole bunch of different options. Pat and I have talked about how Dan Muse is going to continue to be a mad scientist. There's no shortage of options once Kindel returns to the lineup this weekend. So I know some people are going to be upset about it. It's probably just going to be a one-game thing. That's fine. As for some other injury updates, though, Pat, Justin Brazeau and Noel Acciari were both participating in the morning skate today. No contact jerseys, but it's another step in the right direction and another sign that this team is getting closer to finally, thank God, getting healthy.
Which we really need, because I again, to echo Dan Muse's comments from the other day after the Seattle game, they're obviously not in the business of moral victories, or to quote the other head coach in Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin, who I know everybody has their opinions on. You can feel free to drop those in the comments. They're not going to seek that comfort of, oh, they're injured. But it is playing a role, because when this team was at full health, they looked like they were better than anybody expected them to be. So if you can get some of those guys back, you can really start to rebalance the lineup and get more out of your top six. And you also, I was waiting for you to bring this up, but I'll bring it up now. You still have the prospect of Rucker McGroarty looming in the wings, because he's still getting his legs back in Wilkes-Barre. So
yeah, I'm probably in the next few weeks to maybe a month, he'll probably be up here. Like, I don't think it's going to be 30 games, but they'll probably give him, again, 10 to 12-ish, 15-ish games before he's up here.
So it's cold comfort in a quote unquote moral victory, but this team has been bitten pretty hard by the injury bug. And as much as we are excited and happy to see how much better they're playing this year, you take away some of these players and there's not much depth around them. So once they get healthy, this team should get back to a higher level. So you have to hope it begins tonight because you're getting that injection of youth, which interesting thing to note with Tristan Bros playing tonight, he will be the 9th rookie to suit up for the Penguins this season. That's the most in the NHL. And what have we talked about the last couple of years? Penguins are old. Suddenly, they're the team that's played the most rookies this year, and a lot of them have shown they can pretty much hang. So we'll see how Bros does tonight, but end of the day, this team getting healthier, especially with December looming, is exactly what, no pun intended, the doctor ordered.
Right. And with that, you're going to take some of these other players out of the lineup that, not trying to be rude, but some of these guys are cardio merchants, Pat, where just feels like they don't really belong in the lineup on an every night basis. Kevin Hayes in the second line role, he's not getting the job done. Danton Heinen, he's not getting the job done. Joona Koivunen, he's not getting the job done. This also allow Connor Dewar to move back down to the fourth line where he and Blake Lizotte can start cooking again. You and I have been hard on Noah Jarry, but once he comes back, those three can reunite on the fourth line, and that can be the energy line again. So we're inching closer, people. They're not there yet health-wise, but we're getting closer to this team being a bit more healthy. Rickard Rakell continues to skate. He's still a bit further away, but the fact that he continues to get on the ice is a good sign. So cross your fingers. It's hopefully fully coming in the next few weeks. But that's going to do it for this second segment. Coming up to end the show, it's Wednesday. Yins know what that means. It's time for one of our favorite segments of the week, Warrior Helmet Wednesday, where Pat and I will give out our weekly MVP. That's coming up right after this. But before we get to that, we have to tell you all about our final sponsor, which is FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there is no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. If you want to bet on the Steelers-Bills game this upcoming Sunday, you can do that on FanDuel. Player props, you can bet the spread, whole bunch of other things as well. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
We're back here on the Wednesday edition of Locked On Penguins. Do not adjust your radio dials, your iPhones, or your YouTube platform. Yes, as I do every Wednesday, I wrestle the host chair from Hunter Hodes to host my favorite segment on Locked On Penguins, Warrior Helmet Wednesday. If you are new here, we do this every Wednesday. We hand out our MVP of the week in Penguins land as we pay homage to the 2016 Stanley Cup winning Pittsburgh Penguins, where during that season, after wins in the locker room, they would give out a Warrior helmet to their player of the game. So we took that concept for our show and made it our MVP of the week, as previously mentioned for Warrior Helmet Wednesday. So, Hunter, I'm going to kick us off here, and wasn't a great week for the Penguins, all things considered, but there was a lone bright spot that we also kind of missed on this show this week. I'm giving my Warrior helmet to the captain, Sidney Crosby, because against the Seattle Kraken, he put up 2 points, and that was his 500th multi-point game in his NHL career. Just think about that in context, right? There are players who get celebrated for putting up 500 points in their NHL career, as well they should, because scoring a point alone in the NHL is tough enough. Putting up 500 points is a pretty big feat, but putting up 500 games where you have more than a point is absolutely bonkers. So my Warrior helmet goes to number 87, Sidney Crosby.
That is a perfect pick, and he definitely deserves it. I'm going to go a little different, and I'm going to go to the other half hat of the two-headed monster. Evgeny Malkin gets my Warrior helmet, got a very well-deserved goal against the Seattle Kraken. Probably should have been the game winner. Sucks the Penguins gave up the lead late in the third and then lost the game in overtime, but he continues to play outstanding this season. 6 goals, 24 points. His 24 points lead the team. He has also scored in 3 of the last 4 Penguins games. I know this is only for the last week of games, but still, I wanted to point that out. He continues to play better and better in each game. You know, we're going into December. He's been, in my opinion, the Penguins' best player this year. You can argue Sid if you want, and I'm not going to say anything to go against that, but I think Gino has been a little bit better than him this year, and he very much deserved that goal against the Kraken. He was working his ass off all game, got the goal there. The celebration, as we've talked about, was fantastic. So Evgeny Malkin gets my Warrior helmet for this past week.
I think I'm with you in the sense that I think he has been the Penguins' best player this season, and not to be the skunk at the garden party, but as we've seen the last couple of years, the challenge now is for him to keep it going. We don't expect him to be at a torrid pace all season long, but he does have to stay a little bit more consistent because we have seen this over the past couple of years. He just rockets out of the gate, and as the season progresses, he starts to slow down a little bit. If he can keep this pace up, I'm really excited to see what the Penguins can do for the rest of the season, especially as we talked about in the previous segment, if they get a little bit healthier and can stay healthy through the majority of the season. One other thing I wanted to add about Sidney Crosby getting his 500th multi-point game, he is only the 6th player in the history of the National Hockey League to have 500 or more multi-point games. An absolutely unbelievable achievement for the captain. But without further ado, let's bring up the tracker. If you're watching us here on YouTube, you can see it on your screen. With Hunter's pick of Evgeny Malkin, he takes sole possession of first place for Warrior helmets this season with 3. Crosby gets his 2nd of the year, joining Justin Brazeau, Ben Kindel, Sergei Murashov with 2. Kyle Dubas, Eric Carlson, Dan Muse, the penalty kill, and the power play all have 1 apiece through this season. What we are doing this year with Warrior Helmet Wednesday is we are keeping track all season long. So once we get past game 82 or maybe past a couple playoff games, who knows how this season's going to go. Once we're doing our season recap, we will hand out our season-long Warrior helmets. Up until this week, it looked like we were going to have a couple, but right now, Evgeny Malkin takes that top spot with the most Warrior helmets on the season. Hunter, unless you've got anything else to add for this episode, that is going to do it for our Wednesday edition. And it's Penguins, Sabres, 7 o'clock tonight at PPG Paints Arena. And make sure you got your podcast feeds up because we aren't going to have a traditional 30-ish minute episode on Thanksgiving, but we will have a mini recap episode, 15, 20-ish minutes, talking about tonight's game up in your feeds on Thanksgiving morning when you're getting breakfast ready or you're starting your dinner for Thanksgiving Day. You'll have us right there in the kitchen with you to talk a little Penguins, but that'll do it for this Wednesday edition of Locked On Penguins. For Hunter Hodes, I am Patrick Damp. Thank you as always for tuning in, and we'll talk to you on Thanksgiving morning.